You see, there's something deeply transformative about committing to just 1 hour a day, not the kind of hour you passively drift through, where your mind is elsewhere and your energy is fractured. I'm speaking of 1 hour, just 60 minutes of focused, deliberate, self-disciplined, directed toward a meaningful aim. That hour, when guarded and used wisely, doesn't merely change your habits. It rewires the architecture of your mind. Why? Because when you isolate time with intention, you begin to separate yourself from the ordinary. Most people live in reaction, constantly pulled by distractions, external demands, and befluating pleasures. They're enslaved by routine, but not the kind that builds them, the kind that buries them. But the individual who consciously devotes 1 hour a day to their personal development, to their craft, to inner mastery or purposeful creation. That person steps into a rare category. They are no longer driven by the clock. They are driven by vision. Let me be absolutely clear. What matters is not how much time you give to your dream or growth or healing. What matters is how purely and repeatedly you give it. You could spend 8 hours in a state of distraction and self-doubt and accomplish nothing of significance. But 1 hour, aligned with purpose, uninterrupted by noise, and executed with emotional and mental precision, that hour is priceless. That hour is where the mind is trained, the will is strengthened, and the path forward is made real. Now, you might be wondering, how can just 1 hour do so much? The answer lies in how our mind works. The subconscious is not changed through bursts of emotion or sudden decisions. It is shaped through repetition and association. When you show up each day and devote an hour to something that demands your higher self, reading, writing, training, meditating, learning, building, you're doing more than just an activity. You are sending a signal deep into your own psyche that says, I am becoming. The brain doesn't ignore that. In fact, it begins to remap itself around that identity. And once the mind accepts this new image of you, someone who creates, someone who disciplines themselves, someone who shows up no matter what, the rest of your life begins to follow that pattern. Behavior changes, decisions shift, momentum builds. This is why I say, and I say it without hesitation, give yourself 1 hour a day, and the rest of your life will start to rearrange itself around that commitment. You don't need to wait until the conditions are perfect. You don't need a perfect schedule. You don't need applause, approval, or validation. All you need is 1 hour that belongs to you and no one else. And in that hour, you must demand your own excellence, not perfection. Excellence. The pursuit of being better than the version of yourself that showed up yesterday. You see, we are not creatures of potential alone. We are creatures of pattern. And the pattern of your life is dictated by what you do when no one is watching, when no one is telling you what to do, when it's just you, alone with your discipline or your excuses. This is the secret successful people understand. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on structure, on ritual. They build their lives around non-negotiables. And 1 sacred hour, locked in every day, is one of the most powerful non-negotiables you can adopt. Let's get something else straight. This hour is not simply about work. It's about alignment. It could be learning a new language, refining your body, reading timeless wisdom, building a business, or sitting in deep stillness to strengthen the muscle of the mind. Whatever the form, the essence is this. You are growing, and when you grow daily, even if the change is invisible at first, you begin to tap into something most people never find in a lifetime: inner control. Because the real purpose of that hour is not just results, it's recalibration. You are teaching yourself that you are in command, that you are not a puppet of your emotions, that you do not fold under fatigue or fear. You are showing up, especially on the days when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. And let me tell you, those are the days that make all the difference. Discipline, like a muscle, doesn't grow by accident. It grows by resistance. That's why so many never reach the level they dream of. They're waiting to feel ready. But readiness is an illusion. The ones who win are the ones who show up before they feel like it. They don't ask, do I want to do this today? They ask, who am I becoming if I don't? And that's where it gets powerful, because when you string together those days, those 1 hour blocks of focused effort, the results become exponential. Confidence replaces confusion. Purpose replaces procrastination. And progress, real, irreversible progress, becomes inevitable. The problem is, Most people aren't consistent enough to witness that breakthrough. They try something for a few days, then drift back into chores. They never give the mind time to adapt. But if you treat this hour like a sacred appointment with your destiny, every single day, you begin to see results that compound not just in output, but in identity. The 1 hour rule is not a hack. It's a declaration. It says, my time is valuable, my growth is non-negotiable, and I will not leave my future to chance. It is a quiet rebellion against everything in the modern world that is trying to scatter your focus, dilute your discipline, and sell you comfort over greatness. You want a better life. You want clarity. You want power over your habits and emotions. Then give yourself 1 uninterrupted hour every day. No compromise. And I'll tell you what happens when you do. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wishes for change, and you start seeing yourself as someone who creates it. You stop identifying with your limitations and start building from your possibilities. You begin to speak differently, carry yourself differently, not because someone gave you permission, but because you finally gave it to yourself. This is the shift. The moment you realize that no one is coming to save you and no one needs to. You already have the tools, you're just not using them. 1 hour. That's all it takes to begin proving to yourself that you are capable of more, meant for more, and willing to pay the price of discipline to earn it. You'll discover a powerful truth, that in committing to that single hour each day, you are slowly mastering the rest of your life. Because self-discipline in one area leaks into all areas. And what once seemed impossible becomes standard. Not because the world changed, but because you did. So start. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you're less busy. Start now. Take control of 1 hour, and you will begin to take control of your mind. And when you take control of your mind, there is no external circumstance that can stop you. Let that sink in. 1 hour of focused self-discipline each day is not just a habit. It is a weapon. It is your refusal to live in regret. It is your silent victory in a world addicted to distraction. And once you taste that victory, once you see who you're capable of becoming, you'll never go back. Because the greatest gift that hour gives you isn't results. It's respect for yourself. And once you have that, you'll never let it go. If there is 1 hour that carries the greatest potential to reshape not just your day, but your entire destiny, it is the very first hour after you wake. This isn't motivational fluff. This is psychological fact, spiritual principle, and practical wisdom rolled into one unshakable truth. The way you begin your day sets the rhythm of your thoughts, the temperature of your emotions, and the direction of your actions. And most people, unfortunately, surrender this golden hour to chaos. They reach for their phones, scroll through other people's lives, and instantly invite anxiety, comparison, and distraction before their feet even touch the floor. But the few who rise with purpose, those who seize the first hour and shape it with intention, those individuals begin to experience something the rest of the world will never tasting: power. Not loud power, not the kind that demands attention, but silent, sovereign power. The kind that comes from being centered before the noise, focused before the world pulls at you, and directed from within. We live in a time when people glorify business, but they have no compass. They move fast, even before you actually get. But they're going in circles, they are constantly reacting, rarely creating. And so the day owns them, the world dictates their mood. Their focus is hijacked before they've even decided what matters. And they wonder why they feel so drained, scattered, and behind. But you can choose a different path. The first hour is not about cramming productivity into a time slot. It's about anchoring yourself. It's about deciding consciously and unapologetically what kind of energy, mindset, and identity you are bringing into the day. When you own this hour, become the author of your day, not a reader of it. You begin from within, not from without. You enter the world prepared, not reactive. And that one shift changes everything. This is not theory. It's lived experience. You can study the habits of world-class performers, creative geniuses, spiritual leaders, and self-made entrepreneurs. Their routines vary in style, but one thing is strikingly common. They protect the first hour of their day like it's sacred. Because it is. Why is that hour so potent? Because in those first moments of the day, the mind is still soft, still impressionable. Your subconscious is wide open. The guards haven't come up yet. And whatever you feed your mind during that window takes root deeply. Actually get. That's why grabbing your phone, checking the news, reading negative messages. That's like planting weeds in the garden of your consciousness before the sun has even risen. You don't see the effects immediately, but you'll feel it in your restlessness, in your ability to concentrate, in your tendency to snap, doubt, and stall as the day progresses. But imagine a different scenario. Imagine waking up and giving yourself even 5 minutes of silence, breathing with awareness, sitting with your thoughts, not to judge them, actually get, but to witness them. Imagine reflecting on your goals, reading something that elevates you, writing down what you're grateful for, visualizing the person you're becoming, not someday, but today. Imagine starting your day from the seat of power rather than panic. Now stretch that to 15 minutes, then 30. Then actually get. If you can, give yourself the full hour. That's when it becomes life-altering. Because in that hour, you're no longer just preparing for the day, you are setting the tone for your entire destiny. You are crafting a future identity in the present moment. You are telling your mind, this is who I am now. Someone who thinks clearly, acts intentionally, and refuses to begin their day in a state of submission to noise. There's something else you need to understand. That first hour isn't just about structure. It's spiritual. Because when you start your day from within, you're reconnecting with something most people have lost, their own center. You are reminding yourself that you are not your obligations. You are not inbox. You are not the voices of others. You are something deeper. And from that place of stillness, your true decisions emerge. Your true self speaks. Not the self trained to perform, impress, or hustle blindly, but the self that knows, the self that is whole. Now, of course, this all sounds empowering, but some will say, I don't have time. Let me challenge that. You don't have time not to do this. Because without control of the first hour, the rest of the day tends to spiral. You spend it patching leaks, putting out fires, reacting to things that wouldn't rattle you had you started from a place of inner alignment. You lose far more time, energy, and peace across your day than what you would have invested in that single hour of clarity. Think of it this way, that first hour is the seed. Your thoughts, intentions, and energy are the soil, the water, the light. What you plant will grow, either by design or by default. So the question becomes, what are you planting? A person who begins their day in anxiety will see the world through anxious eyes. A person who starts with resentment or stress will find more reasons to feel resentment and stress. But the person who begins in silence, gratitude, and purpose, they bend the trajectory of the day before it even begins. They don't avoid problems. They approach them differently, with calm, with creativity, with strength. This is why I call it sacred. It's not just a routine, it's a foundation, a declaration, a contract with your higher self that says, I will not start this day in confusion. I will not be rushed into reaction. I will enter the world prepared, mind, body, actually get, and spirit aligned. That's the difference between living by default and living by design. And here's the paradox. The people who say they don't have time for that hour are often the ones who need it most, because that hour isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Not because society says so, but because your soul knows it. Now imagine stringing together 30 of those mornings, then 60, 90, you are no longer the same person. The chaos of the world doesn't throw you off center like it used to. Your mind sharpens, your emotions balance, your vision clarifies, and the small decisions you make during the day reflect the deeper presence you began it with. People will begin to notice something different about you. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll feel it in the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you don't flinch when things go wrong. That's the power of a prepared mind. That's the result of owning the first hour. So what does it look like? It's not a formula, but a principling. Whatever nourishes your clarity, strengthens your will, and aligns you with who you want to become. That's your first hour. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's prayer. Maybe it's high-level reading, quiet exercise, planning, or meditation. Whatever it is, make it intentional and protect it, because once you give it away, the rest of your day starts on someone else's terms. The truth is, no matter your background, schedule, or current challenges, you have the power to control how your day begins. And if you control how your day begins, you begin to influence how it ends. What you do with your first hour may be the most important decision you make every day. You don't need to believe me. You just need to try it. Try it with your whole heart for the next 7 days. No skipping, no excuses, just 1 hour for you before the world gets a piece of you. At the end of those days, look at how you feel, how you think, how you respond. You'll realize that you didn't just change your mornings, you changed yourself. So I leave you with this. The first hour of the day is not just a clock ticking. It is a compass pointing. Point it toward clarity, and your day will find its rhythm. Point it toward purpose, and your life will find its direction. What you do with that hour is not just how you start your day. It's how you start becoming the person you were always meant to be.